What's up everyone? Today I want to talk about one of the most fun Druid builds for endgame in Season 7, and it's a Lightning Storm build. This build has everything you need for pushing the endgame. You've got 100% uptime on your ultimate, Cataclysm, so that can just be going all the time. You've got infinite mana, so you can cast Lightning Storms forever. Good AoE, good single target, good defense. And it's just fun. It's a very fun build to play. Just seeing all the tornadoes and the lightning bolts just going off constantly and just stacking up is really satisfying. I've got very bad gear. I've had no mythics drop yet. I've not really like hard farmed any gear. I've only got a couple of glyphs equipped and leveled, and only leveled like 30 or 40. Very, very basic. And I'm pushing Torment 4. I'm pushing Torment 4 with this, doing endgame bosses with this, and it's already performing really well. I'm having a ton of fun with it. So let's get into this in detail, starting with the skill tree. Okay, so let's get into this. So the main things we're looking for in the skill tree is we're trying to get full uptime on our ultimate ability. We're trying to get as much lightning damage and lightning storm damage as possible. And then on top of that, we want to make use of shifting between the two forms. So we've got the werebear and the werewolf. The werebear gives us defenses. The werewolf gives us like attack speed, movement speed. And we can have both with certain things we do in the skill tree and our gear. So let's go through it. On the start, we take Maul and we take Enhanced Maul. All we do this for is if we need to quickly trigger the werebear form to get the buffs from being in werebear form, we just press that once, turn into a bear for like half a second, and turn back. You'll rarely use that, and you never need to use it to generate spirit. On our core skill, we go for Lightning Storm, 5 points in here, and we get much more from our gear. This is like your main, just use that ability over and over and over again. You also use that in werewolf form. As you can see, we've got the werewolf tag on that, so you're permanently getting all the benefits of being a werewolf while casting that. We grab Enhance. The size of your storm is preserved for 6 seconds after channeling, and then we take Raging to gain 1 additional lightning strike, more damage. On the passives here, we put 1 point into there to get 3 points into Wild Impulses. Core skills cost more spirit that deal increased damage. Now, we don't use any spirit. We have infinite spirit in this build, so that's just a pure 35% damage increase with no downsides. On the defensives, we take 5 out of 5 in Earthen Bulwark to absorb 63% of life in damage, which means the more life we have, the more barrier we get. We take Enhanced to make you unstoppable, and we take Preserving to get Fortify. Then we take another defensive here. So we take Debilitating Roar, you turn into a bear and reduce everyone's damage by 40%. This is really good, and we take this over Howl. Even though Howl gives more damage, the Debilitating Roar actually gives a 15% damage, whereas the Howl gives 25. The reason we use the bear is because as we group everything together, as everything gets sucked in together, we reduce all of their damage. And we also get we turn into a bear for half a second, so we get all the buffs from turning into a bear as we go back into our werewolf. So we take 1 point in that to get all of that. 1 point in there to fortify you as well, and then we get that for the damage increase. We take the defensives here. You want 1 point in there to get 3 points in vigilance, 21% damage reduction. This is just giving you more defense when you have all those enemies together and you start, popping all your defenses. Down into here, we don't take any companion abilities, but we take Feral Aptitude, which is this one, 9% damage while healthy and 9% increased damage while above movement speed. Down into here is our little lightning cluster. On these, you can change these around depending on your stats. If you want to go more into lucky hit, you can probably move things around, but you can do this. Every 8 seconds, the lightning bolt hits a nearby enemies and deals increased damage. That's big. We take 3/3 here. Endless Tempest, increase the duration of your Hurricane and Cataclysm. The reason we do that is because this is Hurricane here. We'll talk about it soon. But whenever we have Hurricane, we have an aspect which gives us +5 to all our werewolf skills. And if you look up here, this is flagged as a werewolf skill. So having a longer duration of our Hurricane is really important. We take 2 points into Electric Shock. Dealing lightning damage has a chance to immobilize. And we take 1 point into Bad Omen just to have a chance of triggering it with our lucky hit. Okay, then on our main ability here, we take Hurricane. A Hurricane forms around you, and only 1 point in here. 1 point in here, enemies that are damaged are slowed for our crowd control, and then it has a 15% chance to make them vulnerable. So all of this is pretty good, but again, the main reason is for the aspect which gives us 5 ranks to Lightning Storm while that's active. So really good. Down here, 1 point into Neuro to get 3 points in Envenom for 30% damage against poisoned enemies. We don't have to take any poison in this build at all because we get it from our witch powers, which is perfect. Down to the bottom, we put 5 points into Cataclysm. This is Cataclysm got a lot of buffs this season. Cataclysm is very strong. In fact, one of the best endgame builds right now. They just run Cataclysm and just walk around. They just run cataclysm, walk around. There's like this, it's not like, it's like a bug or like a, I don't know, a useful use of game mechanics to trigger like permanent uptime on cataclysm and then permanent rune effects. And they just walk around with cataclysm and one-shot everything. So cataclysm is very strong. So 5 out of 5 that, 1 point in there for increased duration, and then 1 point in supreme to make everything vulnerable. We 3 points in defiance for increased magic damage, and then 3 points in catastrophe for a damage increase after we use our ultimate. 3 points into defensive posture for fortify increase, and then we take 3 in quick shift and 3 in heightened sensors. This is all about getting the benefits of our shapeshifting form in both forms. So you have Werebear gives 9% damage reduction, Werewolf gives movement speed, and they persist as long as you're in either animal form. So this is really good, and that again is a damage increase that's lost if you stay in human form, which we never ever do. I put an extra point in there to get a bit of fortify, and then finally we'll go for Bestial Rampage. When shapeshifting, Werebear grants you 40% damage, Werewolf grants you 30% attack speed. Both bonuses persist as long as you're in either animal form. Again, so you're going to see the combo here of the gameplay is you bring everything together, you pop all of your defenses, all of your buffs. As you're doing that, you're triggering the bear for like half a second. You're getting all of these buffs for being in bear form, and then you go over to werewolf by casting Lightning Storm, and you just sit in werewolf form and have all the buffs of bear form. So it works really, really well, and it's how you have enough defenses, because the werewolf abilities are generally very low on the defensive side. So this keeps us very tanky even in werewolf form. But yeah, that's the skill tree. Okay, now onto the spirit boons. So if we go into these, this is what I've gone with. On the deer, I've gone for wariness for reduced damage from elites. Again, in werewolf form, we want as much defense as we can get. On the eagle, I've took these two, 15% crit chance and 15% lucky hit. There's that little cluster of like things that work really well with lucky hit. Then this one here for 30% max life. Again, very defensive. If you're finding yourself, if you want to use this in like Torment 1, 2, even Torment 3, or you just have really good gear, you can switch this and have attack speed and crit damage. You know, if you're feeling really tanky already, use those two. But if not, I would go for these two. Then I'd come down to here and we take the Calamity, extend the duration of your ultimate skill by 35%. That's one of the main ways we have permanent uptime on Cataclysm. And then finally, we take this. Lucky Hit, nature skills have a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skill by 2 seconds. Okay, let's go through the gear. Let's go through the aspects, the tempering, the masterworking, all that stuff. Mine is very much a work in progress. So I'm going to show you all of the aspects here, and then I'll open up the build guide and show you the recommended tempers and stuff like that. So top to bottom, Tempest Roar on the helmet. The reason we take Tempest Roar is because of the second part here. Your Storm skills are now also Werewolf skills. The reason that's so good is because it allows us to use Lightning Storm as a Werewolf ability in Werewolf form. So we're picking up all of the benefits from being a Werewolf. Additionally, there are extra things we've talked about in the skill tree where it's like you get the Werebear and the Werewolf skills. They both activate and you don't lose them until you go back to being a human. Because you'll be casting Lightning Storm, you're pretty much never a human. So really, really important helmet. On the chest piece, we go for Mending Stone. The duration of Earthen Bulwark is increased by 6%, and defeating an enemy replenishes it. We go for the unsung aspects. The reason we take that is clear Lightning Storm. It has Lightning Storm built into it. You can take more Lightning Storm by masterworking it. Mine's at 12 now, and I've got 4 more to go on there. Additionally, Lightning Storm grows 1 additional strike each time, and the crit strikes cause lightning strikes to strike twice for increased damage. Again, if you've got a good roll on this, fantastic. Mine is mid, it's very average. On the legs, Vigorous. This is great. Damage reduction while shapeshifted into a werewolf. Perfect. On the legs, Storm Shifters. While Hurricane is active, gain +5 skills to your shapeshifting skills. And again, this is a shapeshifting skill. Our Lightning Storm is a shapeshifting skill. Our ultimate ability, Cataclysm, is a shapeshifting skill. So if we can have Hurricane, which has it's got a 16-second cooldown, and it says here, look, form a hurricane around you that deals 30,000 damage to surrounding enemies for 19 seconds. So it's a 19-second long cast, and it only has a cooldown of 16 seconds. So it's permanently up, which means we have a permanent +5 ranks to shapeshifting skills, which is great. On our weapons, you have a choice here. You could go two-handed retaliation or two-handed rune workers. I split them up, and I'm trying that right now, and it's working really, really well. So yeah, I've gone retaliation for core skills, deal up to 75% increased damage based on your fortify. We have lots of fortify. And then on the rune workers, crit strikes with storm skills cause lightning bolts to strike closer enemies for more damage. And more importantly, lightning bolt damage is increased by 15% for every 100 willpower. Right now I've got that at 330%, which is really, really, really good. So yeah, you can kind of split these or double them up. If you have more crit, maybe go for rune workers. You know, if you're finding yourself constantly topped up on fortify, maybe double up on retaliation. I feel like I'm more balanced, so I have both right now. On the neck, unsatiated. After crit striking an enemy with shred, you gain 15 spirit. Seems like there's no reason to take this, right? It's useless. But we take it for the second part. Your werewolf skills deal up to 60% increased damage until you go below 30 spirit. And we never go below 30 spirit. We're always at 100%. We have infinite spirit. So we have a permanent 60% buff to our damage, which is really good. On the rings, the Majolnik ring. While Cataclysm is active, you gain unlimited spirit and deal up to 100% more damage. This is absolutely recommended, required, however you want to word it. This is build defining. You need to get this. You need to go and farm this from the bosses as soon as you want to make this build. On the second ring, I would go for this one, Aridar's Inexorable Will. So the reason we take this, resistance to all elements built in, which is really, really good. You've got the ultimate cooldown reduction of 20%, and then when casting an ultimate skill, you pull enemies in and have a damage increase based on your willpower. So it's a really, really nice ring. I would say if you manage to get the Starless Skies Mythic Ring, that's potentially a replacement. I haven't tested it. I've had terrible luck this season so far. But if you get that, try. I think it might be better overall, but these are working fantastic so far. So yeah, that's all of the gear. That's all of the aspects that you need to start pushing tier 4, Torment 4 very, very easily. Now let's talk about the Masterworking, the main stats you want on every piece of EVE gear and the things you want to be Masterworking on them. So I'm going to pull up the build guide for this because it's just easier to see it. It's just easier to see it. This is the full guide. It'll be linked down below. It's got the skill tree, the Paragon Board. It'll have the gems. Everything you need will be on here when this video comes out. Okay, so if we come down to the gear, here, this is everything we just talked about. This is all the aspects. And then if you hover over it, you can see more information. If you click gear stats, you can then see all of the different stats that we want to be looking for and enchanting on our gear. And then the little blacksmith icons here are what we want to temper. So, I'll just drag this over so I'm not covering any of it. Here we go. So rather than go through every single item like one by one, I'm just going to say in general what we're looking for. So everywhere you can find willpower, you want to take willpower. Willpower is our way to scale our damage. You can get that on lots of different pieces. So everywhere you see we can get willpower, we want to be taking willpower. We get it heavily on our Tempest Roar, and on our neck we get it again because we get it as a percent. So on your neck, willpower, like I've got 19.3% willpower on my neck right now, which is really good boost to your overall damage. Anywhere you can get life, you want to be taking life because it keeps you alive, and it's what our fortify scales off of. So your fortify gives you a barrier based on your max life. So that's really good to get. Ranks to any sort of passive is really good. Ranks to your main skills is really good, like ranks to Lightning Storm on the gloves. You've got to masterwork them. Crit is pretty decent. That's pretty much the main things. Cooldown reduction to bring down our ultimate cooldown so that we have it permanent uptime. They're the main things that I would be looking for. Armor to hit our armor cap of 1,000, I want to say. So yeah, that's all of the things to masterwork. You can use this and go on every single one and try and match it, but generally you need to just match it to your build. Like if you're already at 1,000 armor, don't try and get armor on your legs, right? If you're already at a really good amount of health and your defenses are really bad, don't take health. So you kind of got to play it to your own build, but this is a good guide to generally what you want to be going for. Okay, now let's talk about tempering. So you can't temper uniques, but you can temper our legendaries. So here's what we'll be tempering. Let's start with the weapons. So on the weapons, you want to be going for lightning bolt damage because that affects our lightning storm. We hit the lightning bolts and it affects our cataclysm. So your lightning bolt damage will scale into your cataclysm because that also releases lightning bolts. On the weapon ability, you will take chance for lightning storm to deal double damage. So you want that on both your one-hander and your totem, or if you're using a two-hander, on your two-hander. On the boots, mobility speed, movement speed on mobility, and hurricane duration. Again, on the pants, hurricane duration and max life. The reason we're taking hurricane duration is so we can have 100% uptime, giving us that +5 ranks permanently. On our hands, they're uniques, doesn't matter. Where's the next one? it would be our chest piece and our neck. So on the chest piece, Earthen Bulwark cooldown reduction for more barrier, Hurricane duration again to make sure we've got it 100%. If you find yourself at a point where you're past that, you can take something else. On the neck, lightning bolt damage as an offensive, and then resource, cataclysm cooldown reduction. Okay, now let's talk the seasonal witchcraft abilities. So first up, Doom Orb. This is a ball of energy, spins around, deals damage, reforms, and comes back. It's a nice damage boost, but the main reason is it's an Eldritch ability. I haven't yet unlocked Paragon, so I haven't tested that, but this is very, very good. Out of the 3 options you have at endgame to start with, this is the best, especially considering it gives us the Eldritch tag, which is what we need for one of our gems, which I'll go over in a sec. Then we take Breath of the Coven. You find this from one of the altars. So as you do dungeons and as you go through the Nightmare dungeons, you'll find these altars that will unlock these 3 here and the Paragon. If you find this, it's really, really good. If you haven't found it, I'd maybe go for Decay Augmentation or even Aura of Lament. Next, we'd go for Aura of Siphoning. That deals poison damage to everything around you. The damage is nothing great, but anything that is tagged deals damage if an enemy is poisoned, or if poisoned enemies are nearby, we have that all the time because of that aura. Then we go for Purging Touch. Your Eldritch effects deal 30% increased damage to all enemies. And then we go for Hex of Flames. Hex of Flames is kind of not great, but it's our 3rd Eldritch ability. So we have the Doom, the Purging Touch, and the Hex of Flames, which is really important for our gem. Then we take Soul Harvest. Whenever you cast a cooldown, your primary stat increases per surrounding enemy. The best way to utilize that is when we suck everything together, or when everything comes together, that's when you pop your cooldowns, you pop your defensives, and you should get the maximum bonus of that, giving us that big boost of willpower. So that's everything. And then if we go back to our gear, this is the gem we want. It's you can see it at the bottom here. It's called Witching Hour. It's the meta gem for it's like the bottom section, the final version of the gem. While you have 3 or more Eldritch Witch powers equipped, every second the next core skill is also treated as Eldritch, which means every second one of our lightning storms is tagged as Eldritch. So all of the buffs to Eldritch powers, the things that are like Eldritch effects deal 30% more damage, gets triggered by our lightning storm, which is really, really nice. So yeah, that's the witch powers. I'm still working on the other rings now, but the ones I'm going to go for is Moonlight Ward. For each rank in your slotted unique witchcraft power, you gain 3% damage reduction and 0.5 max resistance to all elements. This is a massive defense one, and all you have to do is level up your main one, which is Doom Orb. So yeah, massive. And then as well, you get the tag of, armor and resistance just for having it in your jewelry. So I'm going to go for this one. And then Wicked Pact is really good. Your non-unique Eldritch powers gain 25% potency. This is a really good gem setup. We go kind of all in on Eldritch to then trigger our Lightning Storm. So yeah, that's everything about the witch powers. It's still new. We're still learning it, but these work really, really well. So yeah, that's everything. Okay, now for the Paragon Board. So going to full screen the build guide. We go Paragon Board here, and then we full screen it again. So you want to come down the main board, take both sides here because they both give good buffs. Come into the middle. We go Electrocution because it gives damage to lightning bolts, and enemies damaged by your lightning bolts take increased damage. So this is the perfect glyph. And the more willpower we use here, the more we get. And there's 105 in this star board when you have it max rank. So in the next board, we take Ancestral Guidance, which is after spending Spirit, you deal increased damage. Your ultimate skill also deals increased damage. So there's lots of good stuff in here as well, like attack speed, resistance to all elements. And then we take the Werewolf skill, which gives us more damage in werewolf form, which is pretty much all the time, and damage reduction, which you want very early on. Coming across to Thunderstruck. Thunderstruck is storm skills, deal damage equal to your close and your distant. We get 1 from some of our equipment, which has a really good boost to this, and there's loads in the area. All of these things here are like these ones are like damage to distant, damage to close, things like that. So there's lots in this zone. We take Fang and Claw, which is while in werewolf, close enemies take increased damage and increased damage while shapeshifted. And it also boosts these things around here, like storm damage, damage to close enemies, which triggers the legendary node. So really, really good. Next, we would come up to the Lust for Carnage, Fulminate. We go get the legendary crit strikes with werewolf skills, deal 50% increased damage. Massive. We got things like extra resistance to all elements. We've got other good stuff like life, which is super important on this build. And then we go for Fulminate. Every 5 decks increases lightning damage. Into here, we go for Earth and Sky, which gives us nature damage, deals increased damage to crowd controlled and vulnerable enemies. And we have the legendary glyph. While a poisoned enemy is nearby, you deal increased damage plus 5% for each additional poisoned enemy. Now, you saw at the start, we group all of them up really easily. They all sit in a little bubble, and then we just start lightning them. When they're all grouped up with our aura in our witchcraft abilities, they're all poisoned. So this triggers for quite a lot of extra damage. Finally, I would come into Inner Beast. It's kind of a average board. You don't even need to take the legendary. You just get the resistances, and then you'd come to here and you'd get Spirit. Crit strikes increase the damage an enemy takes to you, and you deal increased crit damage. So that's the board. I'm 3 boards in right now, but this is how I'm going to be going, all 5 boards. Yeah, currently I'm here, and this is how I'm going to be running it. So yeah, hope it helps. That's pretty much everything. That's the whole build. I try and keep these short, but I go into so much detail, and I just feel like they get quite long. If you'd like them shorter, let me know. If you like them in more detail, and you can just sort of like jump around the timestamps to wherever you want to listen to, let me know too. Kind of want to make them as good as possible, but that's it for the Lightning Storm endgame build. I hope you like it. I'm really enjoying it. It's feeling very fun, which is good. So yeah, that's the build. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.